So we are reading about the relationship of the two in one, the master of existence and his conscious force, the mighty mother, and how all this universe is their play. This whole wide world is only he and she, we read. And Sri Aurobindo is giving us beautiful examples of this relationship between them. And the Lord in the universe, in the manifestation, although he is here as the soul, she is here as nature, as the dynamic, effective force of nature in the world. Although he is the Lord and Master, he surrenders to her. He lets her settle and run everything. He does whatever she wants. He follows her rules and her laws. But all the time, she is preparing that individual soul involved, as if forgetting himself. She's preparing him to again become the ruler. And so then, in our human level, we think that we are masters of nature, that we can control nature, and we try to make her do what we want. And she accepts this play. She lets us believe that. But then we read that she pretends that for him she was made. She lives only for his use, for the use of us human beings, us conscious beings. But conquering her, then is he most her slave. He is her dependent. All his means are hers. Nothing without her he can. She rules him still. That's the stage of evolution that we are at, most of us human beings. The soul in us has not yet become conscious and master, but we think we are very clever beings and that we can organize things and arrange things. And nature is allowing us to do that, because in this way we can grow and discover ourselves. But then, as a new stage comes, this is what we're going to read about today. Line 701 on page 65. At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity. The Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest heights she unmasks and is his mate. Till then, he is a plaything in her game, her seeming regent, yet her fancy's toy. A living robot moved by her energy springs. He acts as in the movements of a dream, an automaton stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on, driven by her whip of force. His thought labors, a bullock in time's field. His will, he thinks his own, is shaped in her forge. Obedient to world nature's dumb control, driven by his own formidable power, his chosen partner in a titan game. Her will he has made the master of his fate. Her whim the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal power for any blow or boon that she may choose. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. In all experience meets her blissful hands. On his heart he bears the happiness of her tread and the surprise of her arrival's joy in each event and every moment's chance. All she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea, a tireless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. The Spirit, the innumerable One, he has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time, her finite's multitude in an infinite space. So he, the Lord of existence, incarnate here in the manifestation as the soul, forgetting his infinity and eternity, hiding himself in his creatures and growing gradually until he remembers who he really is. Martin, you'll start.
At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity the God that breaks out to the human mold. The highest heights she unmasked, and is made.
So this is, in a way, the culmination of the game, when the soul within wakes up to a memory of his own true and highest self. And then he sees within the human being one face, one individual Godhead of the Supreme Divine. And then that divine being within can break out through the human mold that is created by nature. Instead of nature ruling everything, it is the soul who becomes the master. And then nature ceases to be this lower nature that rules us normally. Instead, she reveals her highest heights, her divine nature. And then she is his mate, his partner, this two in one. They work together. It is not one dominating the other, but they are equal partners in the cosmic work. Bhavana.
Till then, she is a plaything in her game. Her seeming regent, yet her fancy stall. A living robot, moved by her energy springs. She acts as in the moment of a dream, an automaton stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on driven by her wit or force. His thought labors, a bullet in time's fields. His will, he thinks his own. a shape in her force.
Yes. So until that happens, until the individual soul wakes up to a memory of self, then the conscious being, the half-conscious being, is just a plaything of nature. This conscious being seems to be her regent, not the king, but the deputy king. But he's really just her plaything, her fancy's toy. Nature does whatever she wants with him. He's a living robot. It's this idea of nature as prakriti, as machinery. So, a living robot. So all his movements are movements of nature, controlled by her springs, all the springs that hold the automaton, the robot, together and make him move. So all our actions, they're just like movements in a dream. We're not really conscious of what we are doing, and we don't really have much free will about it. An automaton, it's another word for a robot. Actually, it's an older word for a kind of mechanical object that works by clockwork. So it may move around looking like something like a metallic human being, but it's just stepping in the grooves. It can only follow exactly those tracks that material determinism, fate, fixes for him. And this poor automaton, he stumbles a lot. He trips and falls. And nature is always driving him on. This human living robot. The thought labors, but it's laboring like a bullock being driven along in the fields of time. I often feel like this, that one doesn't have much free time or free will. There's always something driving us on. This has to be done and that has to be done. And just when you think you've cleared all the tasks, whoops, something else pops up that has to be dealt with. And this is because our will, which we think is our own free will, is shaped by nature in her forge, where she does all her metal work and sets things up. She's determined what we shall think and what we shall will. Subbu.
Obedient to world, nature, dumb control, driven by his own formidable powers, his chosen partner in a title game. Her will he has made the master of his fate. Her will the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal cover for any blow or wound that she may choose.
Let's pause there. It's a long sentence. So the soul, who should be the master for a long time in the process of our evolution, he is obedient to this dumb control of world nature, of the evolutionary power of nature that's driving things forward. He allows himself to be driven. This power of nature is his own power, his own conscious power, but he's put her in this position, and she's formidable, very powerful. She is his chosen partner in this Titan game. It's a game of superhuman proportions. So he's in this game. He's decided to do whatever she wants. Her will, he has made the master of his fate. She will decide and choose for him. Her whim A whim is when you decide something or you want something for no particular reason. A frivolous decision, a whim. Her whim, he has made the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. Is life going to be pleasant? It depends on what she wants. Is it going to be painful? Yes, if she chooses. He has sold himself into her regal power, sold himself as her slave so that she can do whatever she wants to him. She's the ruler, the regal power, the empress. And he will accept any blow if she beats him or any gift that she gives him. So we are the outer vessels of this play. We human beings are the roles that these two play their drama in. So we suffer, no? But even in what is suffering to our sense, he, the soul within, feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. He feels the mother's power over him and he loves it. No? In all experience, he meets her blissful hands. On his heart, he bears the happiness of her tread. She's dancing on his breast. We saw that image a couple of weeks ago. No? Lord Shiva lying and Kali dancing. He feels her feet trampling on his heart. And he bears that, and he feels the surprise of her arrival's joy in each event and every moment's chance. So I explained further than we read. Nature doesn't explain herself to us. She seems to be unconscious. It's as if she can't express herself or make herself clear to us. But still, she's controlling us. No?
Ask something?
Yes, please do, Tone.
Thank you. The he in this part of poem, is she developing still? And if so, how?
Yes. I love your questions, Tone. I'm so glad you're back. Yes, this is what's so interesting. Of course, ultimately, he is the master of existence. But he's decided to incarnate himself in the nature forms of the manifestation. He dwells within them. He dwells within them as the divine soul. But that soul is growing and evolving through many, many lives and many, many experiences. And so for a long time, as one forgetting, he searches for himself. He doesn't know who he is. And he allows nature to determine what he shall experience and how he shall grow and whatever happens to him. But all the time, we read last week, she's preparing him to become again the master and the ruler. And when he does, when at last he wakes to a memory of self and he remembers who he is, then that divine part breaks out from this human mold that nature has prepared for his growth. And then she also changes. She's no longer dealing with him like a toy or a slave. Then she reveals her divine higher levels and they become partners. in the world game. If you want to look in Sri Aurobindo's collected poems, there is a poem called The World Game. And it's a kind of love poem of the Ishwara, the Lord, to the Ishwari, to the Mighty Mother. So beautiful, such a wonderful poem. You can read that. So there too, Sri Aurobindo expresses this relationship between the Lord and his conscious force, between the two who are one. And in some traditions in India, it is the mother who is the supreme. No? There is the Lord, but some lines of spiritual exploration, they worship the mother. She will do everything for us. No? And in Sri Aurobindo's view of things, he sees it like this, that they are equals, and they play together, and they work together. So we could go to line 720, and you read, please, Sarojini.
Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetnesses of her masculine touch. In all experience meets her blissful hands. Of this his heart he bears the happinesses of her tread, and the surprise of her arrivals of joy in each event and every moment's change.
Chance, yes. So this is a wonderful state of consciousness that some spiritualized beings have come to. And again, there's a poem Sri Aurobindo expresses this in, it's one of a series called Meditations of Mandavya. Mandavya is a rishi, and it tells how on walking on a terrace at night on the rooftop, he came and stung my foot. And he says the human mind thought of a scorpion and was deceived by forms. But the heart felt the touch of the divine and was filled with delight. So it's like this. The soul, when it's awakened, feels the sweetness of her mastering touch, even in what is suffering to our sense. In all experience, he feels the shaping hands of the mother, her blissful hands, feels her dancing on his heart, and enjoys the surprise of her arrival in each event and every moment's chance. If we can come to that state, we'll be able always to smile, whatever happens to us. I remember there's one of Mother's disciples, an elderly lady older than me. She was very, very close to the Mother. And Mother used to tell her, try to be grateful for everything. If you cultivate that everything that happens, it's the touch of the Mother shaping you to what she wants you to be. So here, when Sri Aurobindo is talking about he, this is the soul conscious within. The outer consciousness doesn't experience things like this in our conscious being, but the soul within feels like that. You'd read Joel, please.
All she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea. A tireless amateur of her word and light. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. The Spirit, the innumerable one, he has left behind his known eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time. Her finite multitude in an infinite space.
Thank you. So this is the soul's experience. We, in our waking consciousness, we don't usually feel it. But that's what the soul in us is feeling. So if we can identify, find that soul and feel its experiences, then we can have this experience that everything that happens in the universe is marvelous in our sight. And we can just revel in her as if we're swimming in the ocean of her presence. A tireless amateur. An amateur is somebody who does things because he just loves to do them. You know, there are professional tennis players or football players, but there are amateurs, amateur actors, people who do amateur dramas. They are not doing it to earn a living or because they have to. They're doing it just for fun. So it is like this. He never gets tired of enjoying all the world delights that she offers to him. He rejoices in her every thought and act. And he gives consent. He says yes to whatever she wishes. He doesn't quarrel with her. He says yes. He's ready to be whatever she wants him to be. In his highest truth, he is the Spirit. Here in the manifestation, he is the innumerable one, the one who has become all this, all these, all of us, everything. In the manifestation, he's left behind that state of pure, eternal, infinite, undivided oneness. He's left behind his lone eternity. He's come here to be and to experience an endless birth in endless time. In time and space, forms and individualities, even forces, are born and die and are reborn. So it is he who is being born endlessly in all these movements, in endless time. He has become her finite multitude in an infinite space. It is nature who defines the limited forms of all these objects and movements and beings in the universe. A multitude, uncountable numbers of them. They are all her creations. He's accepted to inhabit all those, to become her finite multitude. And all this is happening in the infinite space of his own consciousness. So this is another aspect. I said at the beginning we have 7 sections in this canto. Each of them is showing us the same secret knowledge, the key to our existence, to the universe, the key to everything, but different facets of it in each section. So in these two last sections, it's this relationship of the master of existence and his conscious force. Now Sri Aurobindo is going to show that to us in another way. Would you like to read?
The master of existence lurks in us and plays hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument, loiters secret God. The immanent lies in man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of mind.
Thank you. So the previous section began differently. It said, the previous section said, all here, on page 60, all here, everything here, where each thing seems its lonely self, are figures of the sole transcendent one. Only by him they are. All these things and shapes are expressions of the one Lord who is beyond all limitation. So all these things only exist because he is in them. His breath is their life if they are living things. And all this physical substance is being molded by his presence dwelling within them. And now he's going to say this in a different way. The master of existence, the transcendent one, he's lurking, he's hiding in us. He's hiding in us and playing at hide and seek with his own force, his own conscious force, the mighty mother. In one of his aphorisms, Sri Aurobindo says, God and nature are like a boy and girl in love and at play, playing hide and seek and running away that they may be chased and hiding so that they can be found. So that's their game. In nature's instrument, all of us are nature's instruments. And hiding in each of us is secret God. He's loitering in us. He's taking his time. To loiter means to move very, very slowly. He's not in a hurry to reveal himself. The immanent, the divine presence dwelling in things in the universe. That immanent divinity is living in us. Our bodies are his house. And he's made this whole universe his pastimes field, the place for him to enjoy himself in, to have fun. A vast gymnasium of his works of might. In Europe, this word gymnasium, and nowadays it means a secondary school or college. But in England, it means a place where you do gymnastics. Yeah? This is because the original word is ancient Greek, and in the ancient Greek cities there were areas set apart where young men and older men would go and do sports and cultivate their bodies, make them strong and beautiful, and the younger ones would learn from the older ones and the older ones would teach the younger ones. So there were both these aspects of physical exercise and of learning. So in some languages, the idea of the gymnasium as a place for scholarship has been emphasized, and in other places, the idea that it's a place for exercise of the body. So for the Lord, the universe is both these things. You know, He's developing the bodies, and He's developing the consciousness. Yes, Sebastian.
It says, and place at hide and seek. Why is this at? Is it a special English connotation? Because I would say I can place hide and seek.
Yes, plays at hide and seek. You can play at a game. But here, yes, I think he's done it partly for the rhythm, but it's quite understandable. He's playing at all different kinds of things. You can play at basketball or tennis or this or that. He's playing at hide and seek. Olesia.
All knowing He accepts our darkened state, divine, where shapes of animal or man, eternal He ascends through age and time, immortal, dallies with mortality.
Yes. So He, of course, as the Lord, is all-knowing, omniscient. But when He comes into the universe as the soul, He accepts our darkened state, our state of ignorance. He is the divine, beyond all form. But He puts on, He wears these shapes of animals, all different kinds of animals. Some absolutely amazing ones, animals or man. He's eternal, but when He comes into the creation, into the manifestation, He says yes, He accepts the conditions of fate and time. Fate is the word we give, or the label we put on things that the universe does to us that we can't avoid. So these are usually somehow results of universal laws, of the laws of matter, the laws of karma, fate. So He accepts all those laws when He becomes animal or man. He is eternally immortal. He's not subject to death at all. But He dallies, He plays with mortality, with being subject to death and ignorance. Gomsun, would you read, please?
The all-conscious adventure into the Himalayas, the all-blissful born to be incessant, incarnated in a world of strife and pain. He puts on joy and sorrow like a law, and brings experience like a strengthening rhyme. He whose transcendence rules the permanent past.
Prescient.
Prescient now dwells in our subliminal depths, a luminous individual power alone.
Yes. So this is what has happened. The Lord, the all-conscious, has made this adventurous step of accepting ignorance, unconsciousness, confusion, this twilight state that we are in. The one, all blissful, whose nature is forever pure bliss, ananda. By incarnating in the world, he bears being insensible. That is, to be like a rock, a stone that has no senses, no capacity for feeling or experiencing delight. Insensible, somebody who's insensible, he has no feelings. He takes on a body, he incarnates in this world of strife, of conflict and clash, this world of pain. And so it's as if he dresses up in a robe of joy or a robe of sorrow. And for him, all experience is like a wine of delight that is strengthening, that gives him strength. This is one of the ways in which he grows. So that one who in his transcendent state is the ruler of those vasts, the vasts of eternity and infinity, the formless vasts that are pregnant. Those vasts are what give birth to all this and to the future. That's on his highest level, on his transcendent level. As the individual soul, he's dwelling in our subliminal depths, the deeper parts of our consciousness that we are not aware of, that are below the threshold of our awareness. But he's there, and there he is conscious. He's prescient. He's looking towards the future. He knows what will come. Within us, he is a luminous, individual power alone. That's the truth of our individual soul. I think we'll stop there for today. At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity. The Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest heights she unmasks and is his mate. Till then he is a plaything in her game, her seeming regent, yet her fancy's toy, a living robot moved by her energy springs. He acts as in the movements of a dream, an automaton stepping in the grooves of fate. He stumbles on, driven by her whip of force. His thought labours, a bullock in time's fields. His will, he thinks his own, is shaped in her forge. Obedient to world nature's dumb control, driven by his own formidable power, his chosen partner in a Titan game. Her will he has made the master of his fate, her whim the dispenser of his pleasure and pain. He has sold himself into her regal power for any blow or boon that that she may choose. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. In all experience meets her blissful hands. On his heart he bears the happiness of her tread, and the surprise of her arrival's joy in each event and every moment's chance. All she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea, a tireless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. The Spirit, the innumerable One, he has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time, her finite's multitude in an infinite space. The Master of existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument loiters secret God. The immanent lives in man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of might. All-knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine, wears shapes of animal or man. Eternal, he assents to fate and time. Immortal, dallies with mortality. The all-conscious ventured into ignorance. The all-blissful bore to be insensible. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain, he puts on joy and sorrow like a robe, and drinks experience like a strengthening wine. He whose transcendence rules the pregnant vasts, prescient now dwells in our subliminal depths, a luminous individual power alone.